today we're going to be going over how to build apps with the Whop API. I'm going to be explaining the Whop API, and we're going to dive deep into the documentation that Whop provides around API code. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing you do is click the link in the description, and you'll see the link that will take you there. It is a docs website on Whop. Okay, so docs.whop.com. And we can see immediately we have a few options here. We have a quick start, we have accept payments, we have payout users, we have build a Whop app, we have license keys, and embed chat. I'll go ahead and just quickly explain the purpose for each part right now, and we'll start here at the bottom. License keys. Imagine you're selling a software, or you have some sort of a downloadable game, kind of like World of Warcraft, for example, where somebody makes a purchase of that software or of that basically access, and they receive a license key. That license key, they'll go ahead and use it, place it into the application, whether it be a game or a software or whatever else that you're going to ship, and then they get access because of that. It's kind of like if you buy a Windows 8 copy and you enter your license key for Windows 8 to prove that you have access to it, right? That's basically what it is. It's gating via license key. Embed chat. If you're going to build some sort of app like a forum or something, you can use Whop's chat that is built in. And you can use it with an API system, and you can have the directions on that. If you want to build an application on Whop that will sit in the Whop App Store, you can use this information here. And as you guys may have seen, I'll leave a link in my description to show you how I built my Whop app, and I showed the income that I generated from that Whop app, and I showed the actual app what it does. So I'll leave that link in the description as well if you want to go ahead and see that. Here we have payout users. If you want to have an API that pays out some of your users, which is a feature that you can do on Whop.com natively, that is something you can do as well. And then finally, accept payments, which is essentially just getting paid for whatever it is that you're selling or whatever it is that you're doing. And you can do that with Whop as well. So today we're going to focus on building the Whop app segment, and we'll talk about what are the things that are needed. So the first thing is, if Whop is going to be native, if your app is going to be within the Whop platform, you have something called the frosted UI. Now, I know I skipped over app views in just a minute, but we'll talk about that, like I said, in just a second. First, let's talk about the frosted UI. The frosted UI is the documentation that essentially allows your application to integrate with Whop's actual platform. For example, if you're using Whop and there's a night mode or a day mode setting in terms of the coloring, right? That is something that you can control with frosted UI. Those are things you can configure. It also includes things like font, text, spacing, things like that. So all of that comes in with the frosted UI. The app views. So as somebody who builds Whop apps, you can expect to have a different view depending on who you are. If you're the owner of the actual Whop members area, then you're probably going to see different things, or you could potentially see different things than your members might. For example, if you built an app like I did, which was a thumbnail generator tool, the people who actually use the functionality of the app, they're not going to be able to see the same thing that the owner has. The owner might have an analytics dashboard. He might have the ability to charge his members for the tool. He might choose to offer it for free. He might choose to pay a certain subscription price to the app developer. He will be responsible for seeing things that the consumers of that app will not see. And that's why there's two different kinds of views. There's something called the experience view, and then there's something called the dashboard view. Okay, so the dashboard view is basically what the owner is going to see, the owner of that Whop account. Right, so that's where you're going to charge that Whop owner for the features. You're going to give them the analytics if you want to have analytics, things like that. And then the experience dashboard, or the experience view, is what the consumers are going to see. So it's a little bit different there as to how the app actually works. Next is authentication. Now, authentication is just to verify who that individual is in front of you who's using that application. The reason why that matters is for a few things. Well, first off, you need to figure out if they're an admin or if they're just a simple user, right? If they're an admin, they're obviously going to see different things than a simple user would see. And also on top of that, depending on the permissions that you have set in your application, you're going to gain different access and different information from people who use your application. So with authentication, I might want to verify that it's a user and he's paid X amount to get access to X amount of services. Okay? And I wouldn't want to grant that to everybody else in that members area, only that specific person, because they paid for that amount. So this code right here is how authentication actually works. And of course, you're going to need a few credentials. You're going to need the business ID number, the product number, the experience, etc. Okay? OAuth. So OAuth technically is an optional thing that you can use in this code, right? OAuth stands for authentication, and you're essentially creating a login system or an authenticational login system for your application if you have an application that is off of Whop.com that people can use their Whop account to log into. Okay, so let's say you create an app that is a photography app. All right, well, you have a photography members area, and that members area, you want those people to access your photography application. You can control that all through this section, right, where you can basically lock off only a very specific group of people who can access the app through authentication, user authentication. All right, next, React Native. All right, React Native, this is pretty obvious. This is how the apps are built. You have Node.js, etc. And this is kind of like the infrastructure of the app. You can kind of see how you can build your apps and the different views. So you have Experience View, Dashboard View, and Discover View. Which brings me to my next thing I want to mention, which is the Discover View. If you remember, when we talked about the app views, we mentioned both the Experience View and the Dashboard View. The Discover View is basically like your advertising page. For those who don't know and who have never submitted an app, the Discover View is actually optional. It's not actually a requirement for you to create a page for the Discover View, which is just a page for you to promote and show your app's functionality. You can think of it as like the front page to a store, but only in an app's perspective, okay? The development proxy. So this has to do with the host, local host, or if you're developing on a server, right? Pretty basic, pretty simple, nothing that you can't is like really crazy. You're just applying the proxy to where it's being built, and of course, if it's on localhost, then it's probably using your local machine for a server until you actually decide to publish your app and move it to production. And if that's the case, you're probably going to upload it to a server. Okay? iframe SDK. So with iframe SDK, let's go ahead and see here. Pretty basic. You know, you're embedding different things like app purchases. I mean, we could really read through it. User profiles, so on and so forth. But this is pretty straightforward. There's nothing crazy to it. You have chat, you have forums. This is also the embedding of those native things that are, like I said, built into Whop itself. Push notifications. You can send push notifications, Whop notifications via your application, and this is how you do that. Affiliates. You can set up affiliates to promote your app. You have a wallet status, which has API to it, and in reference to wallet, we're referring to the Whop wallet, you know, what's in your balance. And the nice thing about Whop is there's a section in Whop called Whop Finance, where you can add crypto, you can have, you know, regular money, right? You can use crypto, you can actually access a Whop card. So those are nice little features as well. You can install a Whop Pixel. Now, the reason why the Whop Pixel is useful is if you're going to advertise, you're thinking about paying ads for this system, you can add the Pixel, and that will help you with your retargeting in the future. And then AI and MCP, of course, is if you're going to provide this information to Codex, to Claude, to basically anything like that. it can grab this information so you can provide it that links. And that's pretty much it. That's the simplicity behind the explanation behind the actual documentation. If you have any questions on the documentation, you need help, you need guidance or anything like that, you can message me. You can check out my comments, my YouTube videos, and maybe I can help you out any way that I can. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching. Peace.